of which I'm a part. My belief is that the story that the Bible tells about God creating this magnificent earth on which we live, that is essentially true. That is fundamentally true. Now, whether it happened exactly as we might understand it, reading the text of the Bible, I don't presume to know.
Let's go to...
But let me just make one last point. Yes. On this. I do believe in evolution. I don't think that is incompatible with Christian faith, just as I don't think science generally is incompatible with Christian faith. And I think that this is something that we get bogged down in. There are those who suggest that if you have a scientific bent of mind, then somehow you should reject religion. And I fundamentally disagree with that. In fact, the more I learn about the world, the more I know about science, the more I'm amazed about the mystery of this planet and this universe. And it strengthens my faith as opposed to weakens it.
Let's go to Reverend Richard Cizik. He's Vice President of the National Association of Evangelicals. Reverend?
Good evening, Senator. You just took my question. Congratulations. You won the prize. No, let me flesh this out just a little bit, sure, if you wouldn't mind. Frankly, there has been perceived by many, millions, a war between science and faith. I don't believe there's a war at all. In fact, the worlds of religion and science are coming together in amazing ways, including here on this campus. For example, you have young evangelical Christians who are leaders on developing what we call creation care, or a policy on climate change. And so let me ask you, you've already hinted at it, but let me ask you in specific, how do you relate your faith or personal convictions to science generally and science policy? And let's take an issue like climate and flesh that out, or take stem cells, something like that. Just give us a little more indication of how you think.
Well, first of all,
is that fair enough?
It is fair enough, and you guys have done some terrific work on this, so I want to congratulate you on that. Should it be part of God's plan to have me in the White House, I look forward to our collaboration. Look, one of the things I draw from the Genesis story is the importance of us being good stewards of the land, of this incredible gift. And I think there have been times where we haven't been. And this is one of those times where we've got to take the warning seriously. I know that Al Gore was mentioned earlier. By the way, I have to say I think Al Gore won. And I think, and has done terrific work since. But I think that we are seeing enough warning signs for us to take this seriously. And part of what my religious faith teaches me is to take an intergenerational view, to recognize that we are borrowing this planet from our children and our grandchildren. And so we've got this obligation to them, which means that we've got to make some uncomfortable choices. And where I think potentially religious faith and the science of global warming converge is precisely because it's going to be hard to deal with. We have to find resources in ourselves that allow us to make those sacrifices, where we say, you know what, we're not going to leave it to the next generation. We're not going to wait. We are going to put in place a cap and trade system that controls the amount of greenhouse gases that are going in the atmosphere. And we know that that will require us to make some adjustments in terms of how we use energy. And we've got to be less wasteful, both as a society and in our own individual lives. And having faith, believing that this planet and this world extends beyond us. It's not just here for us, but it's here for and more generations to come. I think religion can actually bolster our desire to make those sacrifices now. And that's why, as president, I hope to be able to rally the entire world around the importance of us being good stewards of the land.
All right, Senator Obama, we're going to take a quick break. Everybody stay with us. We'll be right back. When we come back, we'll ask Senator Obama what he would tell those Americans who say there's too much religion in government. That's right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Messiah College in Grantham, Pennsylvania. We are talking to the Democratic candidates about how the role of faith and compassion would play in their presidency, and Senator Barack Obama is with us now. John?
Senator, you've spoken about how your former pastor in Chicago, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, was critical in helping bring you to Christianity and is like part of your family. Could you tell us how he helped bring you closer to God?
Well, I actually wrote about this in my second book, Audacity of Hope. You know, I had worked as an organizer on the South Side, as I mentioned, and it was tough work. You know, the community was in difficult straits, and I was bringing churches together to set up job training programs and after-school programs for youth and to try to bring economic development to the community. I had been raised in a non-religious home. My mother was the most spiritual person I know, but was mistrustful of organized religion, in part because of some of her experiences seeing segregation being compatible with organized religion. And so we went to church very infrequently. So as I'm doing this organizing, some of the pastors started saying, you know, you've got great ideas, Obama, but you know, if you were going to organize churches, it might help if you were going to church. And I thought, well, that's not an unreasonable position. And so I started visiting some churches. Trinity United Church of Christ was one of the churches that we were trying to get involved in the organization. I visited that church and found the ministries that they were doing on HIV/AIDS and on prison ministries. There were a whole host of wonderful ministries that they were engaged in. And Reverend Wright sermons spoke directly to the social gospel, the need to act and not just to sit in the pews. And so I found that very attractive and ended up joining the church when I got out of law school. Now I have to say that, you know, in reports subsequently, you know, there's been this notion that he was, by various terms, my spiritual advisor or my spiritual mentor. You know, he's been my pastor. And what that means is that you know, the ministries that have been built in that church community have been very important to me. It also means that there are areas where we've disagreed on. And obviously the most recent loop that's been playing, Reverend Wright's greatest hits, so to speak, are I think both a distortion of who he is and what the church has been about, but also express you know, some comments that I think are deeply offensive and are contrary to what I believe, and I've told him so, and have, you know, made a lot of statements about that, including one pretty long one in Philadelphia. But that doesn't detract. That, I think, doesn't detract from the incredible church community that this is. And I think that all of us who have been part of a faith community know that, you know, that the church is a body of believers, and it brings in the imperfections of us, men and women, and, you know, pastors are imperfect. Certainly the membership is imperfect. I, as somebody who is sitting in the pews, is a sinner and, you know, is imperfect. And, you know, that doesn't detract from, I think, what the church is supposed to be about, which is to worship God and proclaim the good news.
Senator, you are a Christian, but as a child, you had more exposure to Islam than probably most Americans ever will.